Welcome back, creepers, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about Invader Zim. So don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your friends to, to hear more about more cartoon content and you know how that goes. From the comic book series continuation of the television series Invader Zim comics from Netflix about adaptation of the series Invader Zim Enters the Fortress. For those of you who may not know, Invader Zim is an American animated science fiction dark comedy series created by comic book writer and cartoonist Jonan Vasquez from Nickelodeon. The series centers around an extraterrestrial life form named Zim, voiced by Richard Stephen Horvitz, from the planet Earth, and his mission to conquer Earth and enslave the human race, along with his malfunctioning robot servant named Gurr, voiced by Rosarick Ricky Simmons. He is antagonized by Dib, voiced by Andy Berman, a young paranormal investigator who is determined to stop Zim from succeeding. Nickelodeon contacted Jonan about pitching ideas for an animated series for the older demographic, mainly the 13 to 15-year-olds. And an Invader Zim was the first thing he pitched. In Vasquez's words, it went from a pitch to a series without hardly any waiting. As the series went on, ratings declined and budgetary issues became more frequent. Before the second season was even completed, Nickelodeon canceled the series, leaving several episodes unfinished. The show originally ran on Nickelodeon from 2001 to 2002, with 6 of the completed second season episodes initially going unreleased. These episodes were first made available on DVD in 2004, and then later made their television debut on Nicktoons in 2006. Invader Zim received positive reviews from critics and audiences, with praise primarily directed at its dark humor, writing, animation, art style, and the way it pushed boundaries on what was considered acceptable for children. In the years following its cancellation, Invader Zim had often been listed as one of Nickelodeon's best shows. The series won an Annie Award, an Emmy Award, and a World Animation Celebration Award, and received nominations for 7 additional Annie Awards and 2 Golden Reel Awards. Invader Zim has spawned its own fan convention called Invader Con, and a plethora of official merchandise including video games, toys, clothing, and accessories, among many other products. Despite its early cancellation due to increasing popularity and above-average merchandise sales, it has been widely regarded as a cult classic. An ongoing monthly comic book series of the same name was created on July 8, 2015 as a continuation to the television series, published by Oni Press. A film based on the television series entitled Invader Zim Enters the Fortress premiered on Netflix on August 16, 2009. Now on to the plot. The series centers on Zim, voiced by Richard Stephen Horvitz. I already told you that, so I'm not going to be talking about the cast anymore. A member of the imperialistic Urkin Armada is an extraterrestrial species from the planet Earth, who are bent on universal conquest and whose social hierarchy is based on height rather than skill or intelligence. The 2 Urkin leaders, known as the Almighty Tallest, rule the Urkin Empire together because they are tall individuals and exactly the same height. As recounted in the series premiere, The Nightmare Begins, Zim is a delusional Urkin outcast who is very short and also overzealous, narcissistic, and a megalomaniac. He was banished to the Urkin food court planet Foodcordia for absent-mindedly nearly destroying Urk and his own race during their first invasion known as Operation Impending Doom 1. While Zim learns the Urkins are planning a new invasion called Operation Impending Doom 2, he, not understanding the purpose of his exile, quits being banished and leaves Foodcordia to travel to the convention center planet called Conventia for the Great Assigning, an event where Urkin elite soldiers are chosen to become invaders and then assigned by the Tallest to a planet. Invaders are soldiers whose mission is to blend in with an indigenous life forms of their assigned planets, collect information about the planet and its inhabitants, and prepare the planet for conquest by the Orchid Armada. Zim is determined to regain his status as an invader and pleads to the tallest to assign him a planet. In desperate act to get Zim as far away as possible and ensure he wouldn't ruin things the second time around, the tallest sent Zim on a fake secret mission to a mysterious planet located on the outskirts of their known universe, which they do not even know existed, in order to keep him occupied and away from the real invasion. Zim is joined in his known universe, which they don't think exists, in order to occupy him with the real invasion. Zim is joined a mission by Gur, an ineffective, erratic standard issue information retrieval sir, until which hastily made out of some spare parts found in a trash can, and also lint. After 6 months across the universe, Zim finally arrives at this mysterious planet, which only really does exist, but also coincidentally happened to be dark, dystopian, and satirical version of Earth. Delighted with his findings, Zim quickly goes to work and succeeds at setting up his base of operations in a random suburban area on Earth. Much to the dismay of the tallest, due to his short stature, Zim disguises himself as a human child, albeit one with a green complexion that he explains away as a skin condition, and attends a local school spelled Skool in an attempt to collect knowledge about Earth and its weaknesses. The remainder of the show focuses on Zim's time infiltrating the human race at school or at his home base, planning attempts at world domination and enslaving humanity. Opposing Zim is his classmate Dib, a paranoid young boy who's obsessed with the paranormal and supernatural, and the only human besides his sister who sees through Zim's terrible disguise. Dib is determined to expose Zim as an alien threat to the planet. Despite the hostility and mockery he receives from his obvious peers for doing so. Supporting characters include Dib's cynical and apathetic sister Gaz, Zim and Dib's demonic teacher Miss Bitters, and Dib and Gaz's famous but neglectful father Professor Membrane. Later in the series, other alien characters begin to appear, including Tak, a fellow Urkin seeking revenge against Zim, Lardnar, the leader of a resistant group called the Resuscity, who want to overthrow the Urkin Empire, and Sizzlor, Zim's former Urkin employer of Foodcordia, who attempts to recapture his employee. Apart from 8 double-length episodes, including the debut, each episode is a self-contained storyline. Some occurrences from previous episodes are mentioned, but there is little continuing storyline other than the main invasion plot. However, towards the end of the show, a large universe of characters and organizations were introduced to build continuity resistedly, and other various devices which were becoming more and more part of the show's central mythology. Prior to the creation of Invader Zim, Nickelodeon desired a series to suit its 11 to 15-year-old demographic. Nickelodeon producer Mary Harrington was searching for something that had a similar edge to the Ren and Stimpy show, when she came across a comic book called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and was impressed by the character design in the series. Mary contacted the creator of the JTHM, then 22-year-old Jonan Vasquez, who had zero experience in the animation studio at the time, had asked him if he would like to pitch an animated series to Nickelodeon. Vasquez accepted the offer. Vasquez knew from the start that his previous work was definitely not suitable for Nickelodeon, so instead of adapting something he had already done, he decided to make something new. Since he was creating a show for a children's network, Vasquez completed together things that he loved during his own childhood, including robots, monsters, horror films, science fiction films, paranormal investigators, Monty Python, the works of Douglas Adams, and aliens. Before setting on his own dark concept of Invader Zim, Vasquez briefly considered doing a more light-hearted show along the lines of Mork and Mindy, with a zany alien misunderstanding Earth customs and ultimately learning a lesson at the end. Vasquez said that while this idea has probably have found more success on Nickelodeon, he quickly dropped the idea, believing it would not fit his style of writing. He was inspired by the idea of an alien who came from an incredibly advanced race and had access to such powerful technology and advanced technology that he could easily take over and destroy the Earth single-handedly. But instead he decides to stay in school all day, never even thinking about sneaking out. A pilot for Invader Zim was pitched to Nickelodeon in 1999, which led to the series being greenlit. Vasquez indicated that very little of his writing style was changed over the course of Invader Zim, other than restricting certain language and visuals that may not be suitable for children. Vasquez cited that the biggest change from himself from working alone on a comic book with thousands of people at Nickelodeon, saying it's absolute misery. However, he said the experience of working on Invader Zim was incredibly gratifying, but also fiendishly frustrating. Invader Zim was produced by Nickelodeon Animation Studios, with Nick Digital providing the CGI animation services, and Sunwoo Entertainment providing the 2D animation services. Salami Studios provided the post-production and sound services for most of the episodes of the series, and Encore and Hollywood Digital provided the post-production services for a few episodes in Season 1, and in Season 2, the animation style became slightly more stylized and pronounced in motion than in Season 1. Invader Zim's art style is stylized with sharp edges, thick black outlines, big heads, small or elongated bodies, and big eyes for the characters. Invader Zim's art style was initially difficult for the animators to learn. Director Steve Rosell even admitted that it was the hardest style he had ever worked on, citing the characters' heads as the most complicated aspect of their designs. Invader Zim was one of the first animated television shows to merge 2D animation with CGI animation. When the development of Invader Zim was first getting started, Steve Russell consulted with the crew of Futurama to figure out how to integrate 2D animation with CGI animation, since they were one of the few shows that merged the two mediums. When Futurama crew saw the show, they were very impressed with how seamlessly the Invader Zim crew integrated both mediums, specifically in the episode The Wettening. While the average episode of an 11-minute animated television show usually has around 80 to 120 pages of the storyboards per episode, Invader Zim storyboards were around 250 to 350 pages per episode. This is because Invader Zim has a very dedicated attention to detail, outlining every ounce of character's movement and method of acting, which is something Nickelodeon was very impressed by. The episode Zim Eats Waffles was originally supposed to be one long shoot, panning between Dib's reaction and his computer screen. This was because the animators wanted to try to have the longest single shot in animation history. However, this idea was scrapped due to it limiting the episode's storyline and capabilities, and it being too difficult to animate. Despite the decision, the majority of Zim Eats Waffles still ended up being one continual scene. When casting voices for Invader Zim, Vasquez didn't want actors who were just capable of doing zany voices because it sounded less natural to him. He made a point to cast people with speaking voices that were naturally distinct and out of the ordinary, so that the cast did not have to do unusual voices, but could instead just speak naturally. Mark Hamill was originally hired to do the voice of Zim for the pilot episode, but was replaced before the pilot was shown to Nickelodeon executives because Vasquez felt his voice did not feel right for the character. Hamill was replaced by voice acting professional Billy West, who remained the voice of Zim for the pilot. After the show was picked up, Vasquez decided to replace West with Richard Stephen Horvitz, saying that West was too well known, and that he wanted all of the voices main characters to be unique and not voices of people they had heard before. Also, due to Futurama still being on the air at the time, Vasquez did not want the same voice actor to be led into contemporaneous sci-fi comedies. Vasquez wanted someone with no experience in voice acting to play the part of Gurr, as a reflection of how broken and messed up Gurr really is. Vasquez wanted someone who sounded unprofessional, but all of the actors who auditioned for Gurr were good actors who just did a stocky crazy robot voice, which he found dissatisfying. Vasquez then asked his friend, Roderick Ricky Simmons, who was working with him for his comic book called I Feel Sick at the time, to try to audition for Gurr, saying he couldn't screw it up any more than anyone else. Simmons did a few different voices for his audition for Gurr, including one where he was trying to imitate his mother-in-law, but decided it was too shrieky. Ouch. He then remembered when he used to play with hand puppets with his father as a kid, and then tried to do one of those voices. Simmons was also a colorist on Invader Zim in November 1998. The same month he auditioned for Gurr. He also helped color the pilot episode. Vasquez said he gave Simmons the part of Gurr because he was bad at it, that he fit the character. When voicing Gurr, Simmons' voice was edited to make it sound higher pitched and metallic. While Simmons eventually learned to perform the voice without any high-pitch editing, the metallic quality still had to be added. An edited version of Simmons' voiceover can be heard in the voice recordings for the unfinished episodes. Vasquez asked his friend Mark Tortoriki to come up with the theme music for Invader Zim. Vasquez said all he really wanted for the theme music was military music to represent Zim mixed with the futuristic electric orchestral music. Once the direction for the music was settled on, Tortoriki produced the theme music on Alesis QS8 very quickly, and it didn't go through many changes, but they did reorchestrate it for the TV series and stuck with it from that point on. Vasquez's team selected Michael Tavera, who is known for composing the music for The Lands Before Time, An American Tale, and Stitch the Movie, to compose the music for the pilot episode of Invader Zim. Vasquez said that he asked for several of the tracks that Tavera made to be discarded, and that ultimately the team had less than half a number of tracks that they planned to submit. According to Vasquez, he and Tavera were not a great fit for one another creatively. Vasquez disturbed the pilot music as having a more children's television sound, with a much more traditional and not surprising theme that he wanted, but added that the music worked for the pilot. Tavera's cover version of the Tortoriki's theme music did not appear in the pilot as there was no opening credit sequence. Vasquez said that members of the Invader Zim crew laughed at Tavera's version of the theme because it was cheesy, adding that the reaction was not mean-spirited, and that Tavera had received little information about the series before submitting the music. Tavera did not become a part of the regular Invader Zim crew and was replaced with Kevin Mathy, who is known for composing music for Generator Rex. You don't know Generator Rex? Okay, you know Ben 10, right? Yeah, Generator Rex was created by Man of Action. Man of Action created Ben 10. So there's a crossover between those two, but that's a story for another video. The Sims 2 and Robot Chicken to compose the series music. Matthew's music for the series is industrial and techno in nature. The anime internet radio station Anime Stuff R did a radio broadcast special called the Kevin Matthew Invader Zim Phony Special, which featured a majority of music that Kevin Matthew composed for Invader Zim. The broadcast special was hosted by Kevin Matthew, DJ Richard Ray, and Tom Mitchell, DJ Tomzer 1. It was broadcasted from September 13th, 2002 to October 15th, 2002. The entire broadcast is 5 hours, 26 minutes, and 28 seconds long, and includes music from every episode of Invader Zim except for the most horrible X-Mass ever. The broadcast was extremely popular, so Anime Snuff temporarily renamed Anime Snuff Z for the special. I decided to release a CD of the broadcast. However, due to financial reasons, they only made 100 copies of this CD. There are 325 tracks on the CD, and the interior of the CD cover features a message from both Kevin Matthew and Richard Ray. Kevin Matthew's message says, "When I was approached by Richard E. Ray about the possibility of an internet radio show featuring hours and hours of my Invader Zim music, I was thrilled. What a great opportunity to let the fans of Invader Zim hear the music. Richard went way beyond what I thought the show was going to be, and he poured his heart and soul into producing the Zimphony. Richard is not just a fan, he's a professional who uses his passion for music and willingness to work hard at it to produce great shows. I am honored that he and Tom took the time to put the Zimphony at this special edition. Happy listenings." Richard Ray's message says, "We took chances with the Zimphony special. I took a chance by approaching Kevin Matthew with the idea. Kevin took a chance entrusting his music to someone he only knew from email. My friend Tom took a chance too, okaying a show with music from an American cartoon series instead of a Japanese anime. These chances definitely paid off. The Zimphony special broke every Anime Stuff R rating records. Thanks to the overwhelming response to this show from you, the Invader Zim fans. Of course, the Zimphony is all about the excellent music of the remarkable Kevin Matthew. I certainly owe Kevin more thanks than I can ever hope to articulate for this terrific support during this once-in-a-lifetime experience. The mini CD you're holding is proof that some chances are definitely worth taking. Thank you for listening." Invader Zim would frequently find itself at odds with network censorship, as in many episodes it was originally intended for certain characters such as Keith and Iggins to be killed off at the end of an episode. But Nickelodeon wouldn't allow Nickelodeon wouldn't allow any characters to be killed off and demanded the crew add certain details suggesting that they survive, or in some cases rewrite the episodes where they would not die. They compiled, however, did not in an intentionally forced and sarcastic way to purposely convey their disagreement and reluctant. I'm just gonna skip that word towards the decision, such as a sarcastic "no characters were harmed in this episode" end card message at the end of the episode. Hamstergeddon, where many background characters died on screen. In the DVD commentary for the episode, Bad Rubber Piggy, I don't know where guy came from, Jonan Vasquez reveals that the original idea for the episode was for Zim to kill Dib off permanently, and for Dib to be replaced with a new kid named Louie. But once again, Nickelodeon wouldn't allow any characters to be killed off permanently, so this did not end up happening. Boy, I'm really glad Nickelodeon took over. I mean, Dib is like my favorite character. If Dib died, wow, I would stop watching the show as a whole, man. Anyway, luckily they didn't kill Dib, but you know what did die? The series. On the subject of why Invader Zim was cancelled, the creator of the show, Jonan Vasquez, said, "I couldn't go on and on with variations of the most fantastic reasons for why the show was cancelled. But in the end, even I couldn't give you the whole and accurate truth for why the show got pulled." He wrote a lengthy post on his website in 2010, nearly 10 years ago, after the show wrapped up. The most likely culprits are simply ratings and the sheer expense of the show, which was monstrously expensive at the time, especially when compared to the more modern flash-based saving style fests. And nearly 9 years later, Vasquez was interviewed by Sci-Fi and said, "I never point to anyone in particular as the reason for why Invader Zim was cancelled. The show could have come out at nearly any point in history. I don't think it would ever really be appropriate. I think there's always horrible things happening in the world, and genuine comedy comes from the horrible things at the time. It just happened to be like Columbine and 9/11, and then people freak out about it because they don't want to offend anyone's sensibilities. It is justified response to a certain extent. There's people who have been affected and they don't want to be reminded of this awful stuff. I think that it did not jive well in Nickelodeon's image." In an interview with Sci-Fi in 2018, Richard Horvitz, the voice of Zim, was questioned about why the show got cancelled. He responded, "There's been lots of rumors that have abounded for years about why Invader Zim was cancelled. People think it's the Bloody Girl episode because there's a quick subliminal shot of girl bloodied. But that's not it at all. Nickelodeon knew about that shot. They didn't seem to mind. But what the cancellation really was is the plain simple fact we had horrible ratings. There were two things that were going on in 2001. Our ratings were not doing well. Our demographic at the time was not the fairly odd parents demographic, which was what we premiered with, and we premiered to really good critical acclaims. But ratings wise, the only real barometer was the target audience, 6 to 10 years old, and I think that it was a little too much for that demographic. And the parents also might have thoughts about why it was a little too demographic for them. Our ratings never really got off the ground. One other thing is that people often forgot is that the show premiered on March of 2001. By September 2001, we had the horrible downings of the Twin Towers. Given the mood of the country at the time, I don't think people wanted to see shows that were about any kind of destruction or anything that had to do with someone trying to conquer the earth. Anyway, guys, this has been Dope Remix talking to you about why you should watch Invader Zim. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that notifications bell, share with your friends, and watch our other videos. Later, creepers. I'll see you next time.